My favorite trophy is this trophy right here. This is from, what does that say? Dover, New Hampshire. This is the first trophy I ever won. If I picked it up right now, it would all fall apart. It's like the pieces are coming out. I had never won a trophy in my life. That was the first trophy I've ever won. I won an award. I won an honor in high school for speaking, but other than that, this was the only trophy. This is the first trophy I'd ever won. And I never intended on winning trophies. I really just wanted to challenge myself and my dog. But, you know, these are all subsequential. Like, they happened from good work, right? They happened from, you know, from blood, sweat, and tears, right? And then obviously the jackets, to me, they're like golf jackets, right? Like when you win a championship, it's like the golden jackets. So I set up the kids, their PSA 3 certificates, and then just like high in trials, high obedience, high protection, right? And then you got Cheetah. We started one for Cheetah, right? Did Link start a trophy case?
I may have.
Yeah?
Yeah. Trophy wall.
This is another one of my favorites. Decoy Pick Dog was my first weekend showing Uzi in the 3s. I failed obedience on Saturday. On Sunday, I got through obedience with like a 78. And I failed one of the protection scenarios by like 1 or 2 points. And the decoy still gave me Pick Dog. Because, man, I got so close that I could like taste it, and it was my first weekend showing. Obviously, they PSA honored Uzi with putting him in the Hall of Fame. That's his Hall of Fame trophy. We have here is when Puma won national champion in Missouri. And then we have like national placements.
What's the
you know.
bronze one?
That's a gift. A friend of mine made me. She's a sculptor, and this is my friends Chris and Eileen made me a golden whistle in memory of Iuzi de Barriques, June 12th, 2006 to January 30th, 2020. Yeah. So it's just every time we come in here, because the podcast studio is in the big gymnasium and you have to walk through this. So like every time I go up into the studio, I almost feel inspired because of, you know, like none of this was just, you know, given to me. Like all of this was earned. So I feel that same sense of accomplishment of like going into the studio and building the podcast and putting the information out there and building other content. And the fact that I have a facility that I can actually have a dedicated studio, you know, is really cool. We have here, this is my bite suit. And then next to it, we have Michael Ellis's old bite suit. I'm building the Suitsonian, which is like the Smithsonian of bite suits. So I'm trying to have, you know, bite suits that were influential in history. If you look at the back, we got these cool mannequins, but.
I like that they're barefoot.
Exactly, right? So wouldn't you say that all the best dog trainers, you know, like you catch them training barefooted sometimes? I feel like being one with the dog is like being one with the earth a little bit. You know, it's like a earth, wind, fire, water, dog. Right? All right, let's go. Let's go record. Welcome to today's episode of the Dog Training Dogma with your host, Jonathan Katz. As always, in the studio with me is Hood Rat Heather. Welcome, Heather.
Hello.
And today we have special guest, Adrienne. Welcome, Adrienne.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. As one of my students, I appreciate your brain, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate all your dedication. And as also being a mentor, I thought that you were a perfect guest to be on our mentorship episode.
Thank you. It's an honor. I I think it's important also I feel seen. Like, thank you for that, because I think a good mentor also
Elevates
and recognizes and validates and encourages.
If I didn't see your talent, I wouldn't put the time. It's like, I love dogs, but the dog has to have, not to compare you to a dog, but the dog has to have the drive and the dedication and the heart to be able to do all of that hard work. And so you have all of that heart and dedication, and hence why putting so much time into you.
Thank you.
Because you're worth it.
Thank you.
And hence giving you, selling you a dog that was capable of as your canvas. It's giving you the right dog, but for you to be able to put your own paper to brush and, and paint a masterpiece.
Play.
Right?
She's perfect. Thank you for the dog. She's
so,
perfect. She's perfect.
As a breeder, I try to pair, you pair personalities, right? And so, like from the start, she was always the feistiest one in the litter. She was always like the first one making noise. And like the second when you took her home, the box was quiet.
Yeah. I don't think she ever slept.
No.
Every time I looked in the room, her eyes were open.
Have you still ever seen her sleep?
Oh, yeah.
A couple of times?
Sure.
Yeah, 2
Well,
maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
Are you?
They sleep fast. She sleeps fast, right?
Have I actually observed the dog asleep?
That's what I'm
Actually,
saying.
I don't know.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like a mythical creature.
Yes.
She's like a unicorn.
Like, she knows you're awake.
Yeah.
She sees
They
you
know.
when you're
Yeah.
sleeping. Huh.
So
No, she's perfect.
giving you the right dog to be able to go out and do what you've done with her so far. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Last weekend in Montana.
Lots of fun.
Closed your PSA 1.
Yes.
Got your second leg and took high obedience, high protection.
Yep.
You smothered my protection scores. I think
Smothered?
that is, you took it and you just like
Stumped on it.
211 and a half. I think the highest score I've ever put down in protection was like a 210. And once you're getting up, so like for anyone that doesn't really know a ton about PSA, once you get up into the 200, so PSA 1 is out of 220. That means in all 4 scenarios, you only lost like 8.5 points, right? When Ben said 49, I took 1 point off for grip. And I was like, damn, like the two of you smoked it, right? And you should be really proud of what you've done, because you trained your dog and you showed up and you were the best dog at the trial, right? It's but it's
Couldn't have gotten here without you guys. I could not have gotten here without you guys.
and in the same respect, we appreciate
Or maybe
you.
5 years later. If not, and not as good.
I mean, like you said to me, I think it was in Montana, was, I want to be like, I want to be a better decoy, right? And I said, you're a phenomenal decoy. What comes with the rest of it is time, right? And you were talking in respect of Tegan. Tegan's a phenomenal decoy. We're going to have Tegan on. I'm going to do an episode, Tegan, Seven, and Selena.
Heck yeah.
Okay. And, you are one of our decoys, and we appreciate you putting your suit on, your Ranger decoy, right? You and Ranger weigh about the same
Ranger.
amount.
His favorite.
And you're his favorite. You're his kryptonite, and it's phenomenal. And it really allows us to get in, like Isaiah can't get in the dog's head, but you get in that dog's head.
I just
right?
love him.
So, it's, to me, the team is so important. Moving to Texas and then collecting all of my students that were, scattered around Texas and bringing them all to one area. And, we've seen the ones that have stayed, right? We've seen the ones that are team members and team players, and we've seen the ones that have gone. And I still love them, but, my line is always like, I think we should see other clubs.
Yeah.
Right? I think a team has to work in unison. We have to work as, think about it as a military, like as a paramilitia group, like that but our goal is to win, dog battles of PSA trials.
Yep.
right?
I always tell Lynx, you're the gladiator and I'm the guy who owns you, but I'll get you to Rome.
Are you not entertained?
All you have to do is what I tell you, and I will take you to Rome. There's a bigger stadium somewhere. But I'm really excited about your webinar on how to run a club. I think running a club, running a business, running in anything is all going to have some very similar things to it, and it's all going to connect. Everything's connected. It's all going to connect to even how you think about your dog and train your dog and run your own household. So that's going to be really fun. But autonomy, like people have to make choices. Mm-hmm. People are allowed to make choices. Yes. Loving someone means letting them make choices, even if that means that they feel better somewhere else. 100%. And sometimes that's just it. If you're gonna enter into a relationship, like when I first met you, I was like, okay, this is the guy I want to learn PSA from. Like I'm looking at PSA like it's a college course, because I'm not here. There's nothing wrong with this, but I'm not here just to play.
No, you want a master's degree.
Win.
Yeah,
I want to win. Yeah. And I wanted a dog that I could win with. When I met you, I did not have that dog, but I knew I figured out that I already knew who I wanted to learn the sport from. Yeah. And then I actually, I watched your dogs on YouTube and everything, but then I actually got a chance to have one, and it's perfect. So, I've had a lot of coaches and mentors, and they're all for different spheres of my life. I think you pick a coach for a specific thing, not for like life coaching scares the poop out of me. Yeah. Somebody who's like, I'm a life coach. I'm not giving anybody that much authority. Okay.
Do you see my meme with Tammy, and it was the Sopranos of Paulie Walnuts going, it is what is it? What does he say? But what do I know? Me giving Tammy advice on deck.
Oh yes, I saw that.
It's just like me going, in case it ruins your life,
Well, and like, so when you pick, yes, but that was awesome. You and Tammy are fantastic.
Yes, shout out. I love you, Tammy.
When you pick a business coach, I expect to learn from somebody who has done more than I ever want to do with my business.
For sure.
And more besides that. If I'm going to listen to somebody about relationships, or whether it's familial or interpersonal or business relationships or whatever, I had better be able to observe you engaging in those relationships at a level that I would like to achieve. For sure. If I'm going to learn a dog sport from somebody, I want a PSA 3, you should have at least one.
For sure. And the devil's advocate I will play that everyone has to start somewhere.
Right.
But the people that are still starting, they should not be talking like it's gospel.
Right.
They should not be talking like discovery. It's dogmatic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, not guru, more Christopher Columbus or Cortez. Sure. We're forging new
You can say I'm a pioneer, but Christopher Columbus called this the Indies. Yes, he was in a totally different continent. Right. So that
good metaphor. It works.
It goes for, and it's always going to be my rant of what you just said was, searching out someone that's done more than you, is you have all these people giving seminars that have only ever gotten a PDC.
Yeah.
Or they got a PDC, and then the first time they stepped in the one, their dog got ran.
Or they graduated a school 2 months ago.
And they did 2 weeks of a course, and now they're teaching people how to do that. Like, it takes a really long time to learn.
Yep.
You can learn the theory and have the knowledge, but it's the physical experience of the application that is the hardest part. That takes years. You have to just do it.
Yep.
You have to just keep doing it.
Ethically and morally, in my opinion, you don't teach something you can't prove first. Yeah. So whether you could be the world's greatest hidden dog training gem, but if you can't prove it, it's gonna be tough it's a tough sell. Like, you could be a great marketer. I think there's a lot of reasons for dog sports to exist, but one of them is so that we can police ourselves.
Competence of trainer ability.
Yep.
You have trainer.
Because you don't just see somebody trial once. Yeah. In order to get this done, you see them trial multiple times, which means you see them in different environments, different avenues, in different moods, in different weather. You get to actually see how they respond to their dog's mistakes, how they respond to the judge's critique, how they respond to, and it gives you the ability to observe, and observing someone you're going to learn from or take advice from is, to me, a huge prerequisite.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts, I really enjoyed Montana as a whole, but one of my favorite parts was people commenting on how we work, watching me, you, Heather, and Tegan all work together as a group, and everyone know what their place is, and everyone knows where they need to be, and everyone does what they need to do. And we have to set an example
Yep.
as being my students. You guys have, because I have to set the example. You guys have to then set the example of, as the students of the example, this is what we do and this is how we work together.
When I went to pick up Lynx, it was the first time I saw Strong Island work, and it blew my mind. And I was like, how do I can't settle for anything less than this now, right? And then followed your advice, did worked with Xander, came back up, got to work with you guys. No idea that you were coming down, but I was at that point absolutely dedicated to spending 3-4 months of the year
In New York,
figuring it out.
Luckily, surprise!
And then so
you don't need to.
Nope. But
who was the first? Not to cut off your topic. I just wanted to. Who was the first person that I called, that I had come here and meet me here in Texas, when I came to tour the place?
Me. I did.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see all the glass and
all the broken glass.
It was everywhere.
The detritus.
So you were the first person that knew of the potential of us
awesome.
moving to Texas, and you're definitely a part of the reason why we're here.
Yay.
Sorry, I took you off topic.
No.
But, I
mean, it's 102 degrees, so I'm sorry, but also.
But there's no snow.
There's no snow.
And we have air conditioning.
Yes.
Thank God for air conditioning.
And there's shade.
It's
No
at least
snow
20
winds.
degrees cooler in the shade.
For sure.
It's great. It works. It works.
And we have enough buildings. We have enough indoor space to be able to, keep us all nice and in the climate control. But, us being an example, I think it's important. I think, as you said, the watching people, how do they take success? How do they take failure? Like, do they fail with grace, or do they fail with
my parents? My parents and my sister were at
that was
trial.
amazing.
Family
came and visited.
They watched. I wasn't watching because I was in my head. That's where I was supposed to be. But they watched somebody, and when they watched somebody correct their dog.
Yeah.
After not doing as well as they wanted.
Yeah.
And my dad would. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not the dog's fault.
No.
It's always the human's fault.
But if that same person was online posting great content and
but you don't know. Online is all edited.
Right, but it still sells.
But that's the concerned buyer, the consumers.
It's always going to be buyer beware.
Yes.
Like hiring mentors or working with somebody that you've decided to have a mentoring relationship, which if I'm the student, I can't unilaterally decide to have a mentorship relationship with somebody. So this is a pet peeve, but people running around listing names as mentors that they don't see even once a year or talk to, I don't think that's exactly what we're talking about. I think we're talking about something a little bit more involved than that.
How intimate? How intimate? Intimate.
Porter.
Into me, I see. Intimacy. How intimate? Like I believe that, and not to give intimate a negative connotation, like just a very close.
Proximity.
I think mentor-mentee relationship is an intimate relationship. Yeah. Like you're really giving these people your all.
Well, look, anybody that you work with on a skill over time for a competitive purpose. Again, purpose is a big deal, I think, in mentorship. Because you don't just work with mentor for the hell of it. You're going to fade out real quick. You're going to get raw at some point, because anytime you're fighting for a goal, you learn about yourself and you learn about other people, and you learn about the state of the universe, and maybe some things you believed were not true. And you learn about your abilities and your capabilities, and it's going to get raw sometimes. So there has to be a level of trust there. What level that is, I think, depends on the type of mentorship it is. Like apprenticeship, somebody who lives with you all the time is a lot more like discipleship, apprenticeship. That's going to be a lot more access than like I'm around you guys a lot. Yeah. But I don't really care which direction the toilet paper is supposed to go.
For sure.
It's not that. And close.
Isaiah's
right.
Isaiah living with us, like
That's going to be a lot more involved.
It's
that's
way
a day-to-day.
more. Every day he has 6. Is it 6?
That's how we eat. When we get up, when we go to bed,
how many questions does he allot himself a day?
Is it
It's
6?
funny.
I thought it was maybe
there is a
6. He goes like,
number,
I'm
I
not
don't
like
remember
he
what
had
it is.
decided for himself. I'm not going to ask Jonathan more than 6 questions a day, right?
Well, that's cool because then he gets to practice either figuring it out or whittling it down. Like then that's actually kind of a cool mental exercise. Good job, Isaiah.
He does give himself a lot of mental exercises. Another reason why I appreciate him so much. I appreciate people
because it's a handout if it's easy.
Yeah.
So being around you, if you were willing, if you
hand-
didn't have the boundary of like I'm going to answer questions all day, then being able to just put the quarter in and get the gumball, put the quarter in and get the gumball.
Yeah.
It gets cheap. It gets
Yeah.
too easy. So it's part of discovering for yourself, which I know Isaiah is big on too.
Yeah. Which
Right.
is also I appreciate in my students.
Yeah.
Right. Their own. They should have their own thoughts. They shouldn't just mimic me.
Correct.
They should have their own ideas and thoughts on how the brain works and what's going to work for them.
Absolutely.
And each individual dog.
Absolutely. Even to the point where, so this is one of the things I wrote down, even to the point where then the mentorship maybe breaks. So a mentorship to me is an agreement. It has to be agreed on by both parties. It maybe isn't like a straight direct conversation and signed piece of paper, although there are mentorships like that,
For
right?
sure.
Like internships and mentorships that are like that and formal, but it should be an agreement. I can't be your mentee. I can't be your student if you're not going to teach me.
Yep.
It just doesn't work that way.
100%.
And when I've trained people and I've worked with people, that agreement only goes as far as everybody stays within the parameters of the agreement. I am responsible for what I'm responsible for in that relationship, and that person is responsible for what they're responsible for.
Yep.
There are divergence, like the ability to have your own style, the ability to come up with a different solution, the ability to check in, but then also try to create.
Mm-hmm.
Not rely on me, create, and then check.
Yep.
And let's see because I personally want, like, for example, trainers I'm training to be independent.
Yeah.
Ideally.
They should
Right?
be able to be self-sufficient.
But I should still, if I'm doing my job, at least as the trainer of trainers, if I'm doing my job right, I'm still going to potentially do that better than you or faster than you
For sure.
or read it quicker than you just because I have experience and I haven't stopped.
Mm-hmm.
If I stop, you can outpace me and I no longer can
For sure.
technically mentor you in this
Yes.
anymore.
So meaning the 2 years that you've been learning, I've still been learning too.
Yeah.
So, and my thought process at this point is 20 years, right? Or however long of the, thought process of experience. That's going to be, it's way quicker now. The computer's moving a lot faster than it did in the beginning.
Yep.
So the 2 years takes so long to like retain all of that and be able to apply all that information.
Yep. Well, and ideally too, I think the role of a mentor in a student's life is that your cheat code. You're a cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
There's things I just don't have to figure out on my own.
That is a cheat code I will agree with. I hate it when people say Malinois are a cheat code.
Oh my gosh.
I think having a talented mentor is a cheat
Come
code.
and borrow one of mine.
Like watching my apprentices having only been, training dogs for a couple of years, like out there giving seminars. I didn't give seminars after 2 years of training dogs. But because of that cheat code of how much information they were able to obtain in such a short period of time and very thought out, progressive, training,
Yep.
it helps.
So, and here's the thing, a cheat code too, I can get the cheat code, right? Like how to do well in the PSA 1 on a strategic level.
Yep.
Because I can teach her the skills. I didn't train obedience the way you train obedience because I didn't have access.
Yeah.
But there's so much that I've gained, not just you guys like working with the protection side, but also just on my own handling side and how to play this game and how to think about the game. But if I take that cheat code and then I go and teach the cheat code, but I didn't actually fulfill the cheat code, meaning if I don't step on the field and actually make it work for myself, then I didn't actually fill it out.
Yeah.
So then it's still not mine. It's not real to me. It's not something real I can actually pass on because I don't understand it because I didn't live it.
Yeah.
To me.
100%.
I can teach somebody how to train 20 dogs and they've had their hands with me maybe on 40 dogs maximum, 30 dogs. And then they leave and they think that they can do it better or they can make more because they don't have to get paid by me or whatever. And they go and train dogs and realize potentially that they have a lot
There's a percentage of that they can fake it through.
Or you got good experience.
But you're going to encounter something and you go, how the fuck do I fix this?
And there are, right.
And then you got nothing.
Nothing there.
You have nothing.
It's hard unless you have somebody else that you're reaching out to.
So, okay.
And I hope everybody is.
I have a question for you because this is something as a mentor.
Real quick. 20 years of experience means nothing if every single one of the years looks the same.
For sure.
Right?
They have to be 20 progressive years.
20 progressive years, not 20 identical. You did 1 year 20 times.
We both believe that the student should surpass the mentor at some point. Meaning if I did not teach my people to be better than me, meaning they learned it quicker, faster, and I've opened up their mind to have that progressive mindset. My question is at some point, the relationship is not always going to be as intimate as possible. But I know for me, what's important is when the relationship becomes more of a distance relationship and it's more of the check-in or pop-in. Like I still have relationships with all of my mentors. I can call every one of them right now and ask them a question. My mentor, John Johnson, that taught me how to decoy, like he messaged me a few weeks ago and was like, dude, you started a school for dog trainers. Like, I remember when you lived in the closet, like in a bunk bed for, weeks at a time. And dude, I got to come out to Texas. I got to see it. Like I got butterflies. I turned to Heather and I'm like, this is amazing. This made me feel so good that my mentor was praising me. Yeah. Right? Someone that was extremely influential.
Still invested in what you're doing.
Amazing.
Still invested in what you're doing.
Not even in the dog community
even if it doesn't
anymore.
even look the same as what he was doing or he's currently doing.
But regardless, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, you took what I taught you and you built upon it. He goes, you now have a decoy school and you went to my decoy school. Right? And that was so important to me. Like just those few minutes of conversing on Messenger, like,
he celebrated your success.
He celebrated my success because all I ever did was celebrate his success.
So that's
and I still
a difference,
celebrate his
right?
success.
That's a difference then. We're kind of defining what mentorship is. On this side, you've got clinical and like almost professional, like an internship or a course at a university.
Yep.
How close are you to your professor or to your boss? Ideally.
I'm trying to be professor-wise in
right,
Dogma.
There's a distance.
My goal is to try to be as close as I possibly can. So not you.
I'm going a little more philosophical here. Like, if I paid for a course, we were talking about this post on the internet recently. Yep. If somebody comes to me to learn something and then leaves, and they got what they paid for and I got what I was due,
awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Where's the betrayal?
Yeah.
They bought the information.
For sure.
And now they get to go and drive it however they want.
Yes.
They don't owe me jack.
Right.
If somebody, though, has a more involved relationship, and again, this is at choice. So I've taught several people and I've worked with people at my facility who have gone on to do other things, and two that haven't. And all of that is fine. Is that relationship then does become more involved in life. Like, I want personal success for that person. I want personal success for everybody, but I'm going to be a little bit more involved in whatever it is that I can actually help with while staying in my own realm. I'm not going to give you advice on something I haven't done.
Yep.
And I'm always going to shuffle things. I'm not going to take credit for something that you achieved. I just won't. I don't typically take a lot of credit anyways. I don't want to.
And I'm proud of you. You can accept the credit that we've given you for you've entered the last 2 trials. So you've now shown 4 times.
Yes.
PDC went out, smoked it. First time level 1, we learn a handling error, right? And then first leg, learning moments.
I loved it.
Right, learning moments.
It's a great time.
First leg, second leg, and taking home all the trophies on both of your legs.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's very few people this season that are breaching the 90s percentagely. Percentagely? That's not a word. Is that a word, Heather?
No,
percentagely?
But
percentage-wise.
it sounds
percentagely.
Percentagely.
You're not seeing as many 90s. You're seeing a lot of people in the 80s. You're seeing people in 70s. You're seeing I see a lot of people failing. Right? And I think if people were more prepared, you would have a higher success rate. having a mentor that knows the failure points, the pitfalls, like I think that's a big setup. That's why I'm doing these webinars.
Yeah.
I'm doing these webinars in very like topic specific, how to PDC.
Right. And then that's a teaching moment. And that is you putting yourself in that more removed state of I'm teaching and you're receiving. And then that contract is fulfilled. Yeah. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't feel any obligation other than the information that I gave them right there. Whereas like you stepping on the field, I'm like, I know you're going to do well. And I believe in the training and I'm not having a panic attack, but I feel that same as an empath. I feel that same level of stress. When you were in the long down and I walked over to make sure to be in your eyesight, this is a coach. This is all done on purpose, right? Is I'm sitting in your eyesight because you can't turn around and look back. And I'm standing there, I'm giving you information, but also you're not breathing. And we're literally sitting there having... and I don't say a word to you. I think it's highly inappropriate for me. I fucking hate it when people are on the field and like, it's very rare that it happens, but a coach will be like, tell him to sit. I'm like, shut up. She needs to handle her own dog.
It's now a trial. They're on stage.
They're on stage.
You've just become a heckler.
Yes. So, it's not like they turned around and went line.
Yeah.
Line, like they were in the middle of doing it. Let them. You're coaching, and I was in South Carolina, and I had to turn someone when the scenario was over. I walked past him and I go, "Hey, coaching's done on deck." I go, "Don't say anything else," and he didn't say anything for the rest of the trial, but nonetheless, it was highly inappropriate. He was like, "Tell him to sit." Right? So you have to have all that information ahead of time. You have to know what to do ahead of time. But coming there and just being there for the 2 minutes and at that moment, I was a breathing coach. Right? Yep. I have to wear different hats. Right? Today I'm wearing my Rifle Supply hat. Shout out to Justin from Rifle Supply.
Rifle Supply.
He has one of your guns for upgrade. And then I've also decided that I'm going to send him another gun and I'm going to challenge him. I want to see if he could do like a Wu-Tang camo.
Oh,
just like W's everywhere. So we'll see if he could do it. But
super subtle.
Yeah. So at that moment, my hat that I was wearing was not vocal coach, breathing coach.
Yeah.
Right. And then being there as you come off of the field, I didn't even listen to the critique. Because I have to be standing down at the end of where the off deck is, right? The time that it takes me, because you can walk a straight line. This isn't checkers, this is chess, right? Like it takes you to walk from the critique off of the field. I have to traverse all those people and be there when you're there. And it doesn't take enough time for me to be there.
Which is more important. Like that is also, you, Heather, you guys are there.
Yeah.
At those moments where there's not much to do, but like, could I do that by myself? Yes. Is it a huge deal to me that I don't have to?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially on my PDC.
Yeah.
Definitely almost died.
Yeah.
Literally.
But
almost doesn't count.
But so at the end of the day, and this feels weird for me to say, but that's okay. Because I have gap mentality, but at the end of the day, I got the one. Yeah. Right? Me and my dog.
100%.
But I stand on you guys as support. It would have been much harder.
Yeah.
And taken longer and maybe not as pretty. Right?
For sure.
And this is, I think, the demons is there's a lot of ways to participate in a sport. Sometimes it's a hobby and that's great. Sometimes it's just like you want to go ahead and have fun with your dog and your dog gets outlet. There's a whole bell curve of I'm just doing this for funsies all the way to like
highly
literally
competitive.
Designing my life around this. And if I go broke trying to get to this trial, it's fine. I'll figure it out when I get home.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's extreme. And you are attracted to what's in line with what you're doing. Yeah. And so I'm taking it a little bit more on the extreme side. I've revamped the way everything in my life works to do this. And so I prefer then to be coached accordingly. Like I want to go fast. I want to go fast.
I like to go fast.
I like to go fast.
If you ain't first, you last, and I like to go fast.
And that's just me personally. Yeah. That's not applicable to anyone. There's no right or wrong way to play PSA unless you're a dog abuser.
Yeah.
Or people abuse her.
Yeah.
But like, we're supposed to be having fun. This is how I have fun. But we're talking about obligations and responsibilities. That more personal part becomes part of the mentorship, I think. Like, taking an active interest. When I was mentoring one of my trainers, I wasn't just teaching her how to train the dogs that came in. I taught her how to write. I taught her how to answer tricky questions that clients posed.
Yep.
I taught her how to buck up and go to school, and encouraging things like that. I invested a lot in a lot of other areas.
Yeah.
It's not
for
just
overall
dog training, it's life training.
And
It
all of it
is.
is like, the focus is for dog training, because that's what we agreed.
For
and
sure.
these are like those satellite elements, but those satellite elements
Are
are a
very
lot more than
important.
I attended a dog training course.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that because it's a mentorship type of situation, I also know you better than an instructor at a course would.
Yep.
It's part
Well,
of it.
we're both
That's
graduates.
part of my job,
Even
is
though we
to-
had different instructors, we are both graduates of the same
Yes.
school. We both
Yep.
went to Starmark.
Yep.
Okay. And even though we had different instructors, but I'm sure the packets we were given were the same packets, right? But
I think they started using some of the
and
ones I wrote when I was
how involved can you truly be when you have
30 plus students,
30 plus students?
75 dogs.
It's a lot of dogs.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of
4
dogs.
instructors. So what's the ratio? The bigger the ratio, the more corporate it has to be.
For sure.
Right?
You know,
And in corporate land, there's no room for gifted and talented, and there's no room for like special population either. There's like not a lot of room for extra help.
yeah.
You either fit, you have to fit in that 75 percentile in a surrounding area, or you don't fit.
Yeah.
Some people need more time. Some people can go fast, and if you don't let them go fast, they get demotivated. Then you lost them.
Yeah.
Right? You know.
I think for me, the most important part about Dogma Academy is like training the person in front of us and letting people grow and build at their own rate, even with the same knowledge, but let them, you know, let them explore and let them find themselves.
Yeah.
Because like, I know you say, dog training and life coach, like dogs are living, breathing things, and they kind of like encompass our entire life. I told my parents, I was like, you know, I got home from vacation. They go, that was vacation? You went and you did dog sports. And I'm like, well, I called it vacation. It made me feel better about,
They're like, how many dogs do you have in the van?
you know, there's freaking 10 dogs in here. You know, you're walking dogs half the day, but still, you know, it was breaking up the monotony. Well, I hate leaving here. So like I had to force myself to leave here.
Yeah.
Right. Because I only want to be here and build
I
and
almost
paint.
backed out. I was like, no, I can't.
No, but you had to do it. I think it was really important
Yep.
for you to be able to go to a totally different region
Yep.
and step out at a different altitude and go and show your dog.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the life coach comment too, when I mean that what I'm thinking of is like, let's say one of your students started dating somebody and you didn't like it and you gave them a bunch of advice on how to not do that. How far into that are you willing to step, and how much is the student gonna allow you?
So this is different from person to person.
See,
I
exactly.
literally
So when it comes to like any mentorship, that's again a
red flag
two-way
patch.
street, huh?
Yes.
the red flag patch.
Yeah.
Red flag.
I like
well,
physically
sure.
made of red.
So
You get a
there-
red flag.
Those are
patch.
reminders.
So again, there has been times where then I delicately say, hey, just something I observed that you may want to look at. If
Right.
you want to talk about it, I'll leave the door open.
For sure.
But it's ultimately you're an adult.
Of course. We don't mentor children.
Because I've never done it. Anyways,
right. That's for their parents.
Right.
You have to be 18 to you know. Right.
have a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. but that's where then as the student, the more clarity that you have, the better that everything is going to run. Period.
Yeah.
Clarity creates harmony.
Mhm.
Hashtag Bart Bellin. The more clarity you
fucking
have,
shit.
huh?
I said, oh, fucking shit.
So
I go bang.
let the dog do. Anyways, so so it's my job to always be as a student, I'm always continuously refining what I want, what my goals are, and what this relationship is going to look like, and what is the sphere that it gets to be involved, and how much relevance, or how much I'm going to, and this is just how it works, right? Or at least how my brain looks at it. Give your voice as opposed to, say, my business coach in a certain area of my life.
I think the onion peels I know for me personally, the comfortable I become with someone, the more time I've spent with someone, the onion, it's like you're peeling out the layers of onions. Like we've had conversations before that if I didn't care or if it was another person, we never would have had that conversation. I never would have put myself or anyone else through that level of stress. But because we care about each other so much, I think it's important to have those conversations so that you have clarity, so that you could actually make the relationship stronger. And I would say that was a very hard conversation to have on all parties. But I think that our relationship is stronger now because of that conversation.
Sure.
You agree with me?
Yeah.
So I think it's part of like mentor and mentee. I think you have to kind of break down those walls. You have to break people's barriers. You know, when I did my apprenticeship.
Well, and it's a layered thing too, because I'm not just learning from you on a consistent basis over a long period of time. So that's the difference too between like a college course and like a more long-term coaching relationship. We're in this for at least 5 years, minimum, unless she's faster than that, right? Minimum if we don't get another dog. So that's the plan. Whereas, so that means that, and then on top of that, I'm also a club member. So there are club rules and club expectations, and those are getting refined as the club grows up a little bit.
For sure. We're a different group than how we started. For the better. I love the group.
Because it all comes down to choices. Again, there's no wrong choice. There's just life choices. What needs to happen for the group, and if you need to step outside of that, that's fine. Yeah. But if I want to stay in there, then I'm gonna do what the job requires. Even before you guys came down here, I knew that at some point I needed to make myself a little more useful than having a cute dog. So I bought a suit, right? I mean, I was pretty mathematical about it. Yeah. I didn't think I would do much in a suit. I'm not exactly 20 and I'm broken and
I think you do great.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm working. I'm trying, but it's also just not my primary focus.
And that's fine.
You know what I
mean? You're
But I want to be useful and I want to be safe because I also know that part of being part of a high functioning competitive group is being able to fulfill multiple roles to make yourself as useful and relevant as possible.
Still carries a rifle.
Sure.
Right?
Yes. Because you're an infantryman first.
Yep.
You're a Marine first.
Yep.
Then you're a radio operator.
Yep. Soldier.
And every single person's a medic.
As club members, I need, like, realistically, you just need soldiers.
Well, and
people
what's
that are
more fun?
The fight.
20 people with one dog each or 10 people with 2 dogs each?
Yeah,
like, how much better is the group going to actually be if each person gets to work multiple dogs I'm just thinking out loud, but as opposed to having multiple personalities to balance.
The reason why we closed the club and we're not accepting any new club members is because I think we've worked so well as a unit that I'm almost hesitant to add someone to the relationship that could potentially ruin that relationship. Or put a damper on how well everyone works together.
I mean, I think we're pretty resilient.
For sure, but here's the other thing. I mean, to be honest with what you just said, exactly. Well, that's there's
no tolerance.
Yeah.
Zero. Everybody in the club has had enough. We don't want any.
Yeah.
We're here to go to Montana.
Yeah. I had a great time in Montana.
So the more purpose driven, the more purpose focused you become, the less of that there is. If it's for fun, there's more room for drama, I think. If it's fun, but the fun is also, if we're here to compete, we're going to be a little bit more laser focused. It's going to be easier to let go of things that are just not serving.
Yeah.
That's in life. That's just life. That's life.
When we were in Montana, someone came over to me, and to me it was a compliment to you, obviously, and to me as the coach. And they came over after you got off the field and they go, how'd you do that? Meaning not me physically doing it, but like coaching you to do it. Right. And like, it made me really happy of, like it's the acknowledgement. People can see how much work that you and we and the entire club have put into the dog. Right. Because you couldn't do it by yourself.
Nope.
But you're the most important element, other than the dog. The dog's the most important element. But the most important element is the handler. Because if we don't coach the handler, then really what can we do? We're not just programming a dog.
Yep.
right?
No.
Having you think on your feet, having to understand at what octave.
Car does not drive itself.
At what octave you need to give your command, depending on what the
decibels.
wind.
How many decibels?
How many decibels, depending on what the wind to air ratio and the humidity.
Yep.
Right? Is this checkers or
well,
this is chess?
And I'm doing the work on my own too, but like nerve regulation.
Yeah.
And pre-trial mentality and routines and but strategy.
Does it ease you, me being kind of calm and cool and collected? Does that help you stay?
I think, so I'm hyper independent, so I also am not expecting anybody else to carry me. But I also think I'm very much better now at regulating myself.
Yeah.
I'm good.
100%.
I'm much better. But yes. I mean, Heather is always cool and calm and collected.
Yes. She's the cucumber. Cool and minty. Minty fresh.
Minty fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like cucumber water, just very refreshing. Right? But it's important to me that the people see us working as a club together and seeing us supporting each other. And, it's like I've said before, everyone else has to be thinking about the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of mentorship. Like I'm mentoring the club, right? As training director, I am main mentor. Whether she likes the position or not, Heather is assistant training director.
You're doing it.
She does an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unofficial title, but
keeper of the keys.
But she
She's had that title.
She knows when she sees someone messing up, she knows it.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the issues we had in Strong Island was when most people don't know this, but when I would go out of town, Heather would not go to club. Because fuckery would always happen. Someone get live bit. Someone's working a dog that I said, hey, don't do bite work with that dog. Show me that dog e-collar trained before we ever put any bites on. And then they got live bit. So she's like, well, I'm just not going to watch these shenanigans. And
that's where the fun and the dopamine and the joy riding gets like in the way of staying laser focused on the mission. With a dog like Lynx, it's impossible for me to get off mission. I can't.
Yeah.
It would be a disservice to her, and I am not willing to pay for that. You know what I mean? Whereas maybe with a dog like Streety.
Yeah, but if you bring her out, the chance of her biting someone for real.
Oh, it's not going to happen.
It's, meaning there's not as much a level of, there is an aspect of danger.
Yes.
I'm in danger. Like there's an aspect of danger to training dogs to bite.
Well, yeah. We also live bite in Montana.
We also don't teach dogs. Dude, shout out to Kevin. I never seen anyone.
Oh my god.
That was so good.
I never seen anyone catch a dog on their hand. Catch the dog on their hand.
Can you send him a trophy that's like a mold of a hand?
And he set the dog down. He still caught the dog.
Set the dog down.
Bro, epic.
Like People's Choice decoy mold of a hand.
Just
trophy.
Yeah. He's got my vote.
So,
Wow.
Very impressive. Cool as cool as a cucumber.
Yep.
But it's I've mentored a lot of people. You've mentored a lot of people.
Not as many.
Okay. Relative to whatever the fuck ever, but we have mentored people, right? I if you had not been a mentor to someone or people, more than one person, I wouldn't have you here giving your opinion on mentorship.
I probably wouldn't have thought about it as much either.
Also having mentors, because you are also made up of multiple mentors.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So, it's like as being classically trained, it is easier for you to classically train people.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I've talked about this before on the podcast, is like, are people that call themselves self-taught, but they watch YouTube videos.
Which, I mean, that's so, again, for me, this is a life strategy. You know that Venn diagram, fast, good, and cheap?
Yeah.
I go for fast and good.
Yeah.
I'm just in a hurry all the time. That's how I do everything. But there are people who are doing really well that kind of go by vibes and opportunities and like totally different strategies, or maybe it's not even a strategy. I don't know, because I think very differently than that. But for me, it's a very intentional approach to I want to do something. I want to do it this far, like this, and and these are my criteria for who I'm going to pick to start off learning how to do this. And the more mentors that I've worked with, the better at picking them I've been. My first business coach, I was out $11,000 on crap coaching.
Yeah.
Guru mentality, lots of emotional manipulation, gaslighting,
multi-level marketing.
Not multi-level. This was a business coach for dog trainers, and I paid her all this money. And then I realized she's talking about all of this and teaching us all of this and telling us where we should be and how it should feel. And then something happened that happened to get published in the news in her local area. And I was like, your life does not match up with what you're teaching. If your life can't match up with what you're teaching, if it comes out, because it'll always come out, right? Narcissists can present whatever they want for as long as they want. It will come out.
Yeah.
The inconsistencies will come to the surface. And that's when I texted her and I was like, look, sorry, unfortunately. It was my first time. I was so nervous. Firing somebody. So nervous. 'Cause I'm a people pleaser. Recovering people pleaser. Greatest thing I ever did, I think. Started me on a whole journey. But fired her. She gaslit the crap out of me, telling me that I was stuck in this contract. I'm like, sue me then. Yeah. Because you're not gonna. Found a much better coach after that. And as I go forward, I mean, I think it's intrinsic to life if you're gonna grow and perform, and if you're operating things, that you're also learning things. You cannot pour out and teach people, even clients, not necessarily a mentee, but like if I'm teaching clients all the time, I'm spending all my time and energy thinking more on their level than on mine. Right. Or I need somebody higher to reach for in order to balance that out. Otherwise my cup gets smaller.
For sure.
So if I'm going to be pouring out here, I need to get poured in from here. Yeah. I need to be reaching that way.
You need a bigger cup.
You have to balance it.
Yeah.
And any coaches that are out there just like standing alone on an island are probably...
Are on that island for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. We never want to get...
And that's going to be the type of coach or mentor that's always going to keep you below them because they're not actually getting any better. So they're going to gatekeep and they're going to kind of like... make sure, they're gonna make sure that you're contained. It's gonna become a little bit.
How do you balance? Okay, so
control comes into it when the coach is insecure.
So here's a question for you: how do you balance the leveling up of the students without giving them? And I'll give you context. Is like Isaiah did not get the same level of praise as previous apprentices got. Because in my opinion, all of that positive reinforcement went to their head. So he was limited on his positive reinforcement because I've over positive reinforcement previous dogs.
Based on what you just said, it indicates that you're now reactively training Isaiah as the last dog and not training this dog. So, and I'm just, and metaphorically, I know. So you changed your teaching style.
It's the last 4 dogs.
And I also think Isaiah is strong enough to know that he's doing a good job. But
for sure.
But I don't think that praise. So I get what you're saying because I had the same problem. I very honestly told, I had 3 trainers at the time, and I would tell them, I'm like, you guys have gotten all of my experience condensed for you. Yep. The theory training. Yep. You've gone to silver and gold school. Yep. Y'all are now like you've only been training for a year, and you can probably out-train 90% of the pet dog trainers out there. Frank, honestly, within the realm of your experience with the dogs that you've met, you can probably out-train 90% of the people who wake up every morning calling themselves a pet dog trainer. Yeah. That got taken to not heart but head. Yeah.
So right? That's my question.
But here, did I say anything untrue?
No.
Is my praising them a bad thing? No, who is responsible?
Well, that's the question.
Who is responsible at that point for the decisions being made? If the student decides that they've had enough, that they're good enough, and they're done, then you graduate. But you may not come back.
But could we have mitigated? I might not be
able to come back.
I don't know this ansor, but it's all in theory. Could we potentially have mitigated the level of headness by reducing?
No, there's only so much control. I do not have control over your mood, your mental state, your ego, your choice making. I don't. If I have a praise to give and you earned it, I'll probably give it. And if you take that and go, well, clearly I'm at least as good as you, so I'm going to go start my own business. Okay, go have fun. But if you do that, my boundary then is you can't now come back and work here.
Okay, so this is a question that I posed to
Right.
you. How do we end, how do you end a relationship? Not meaning trying to end the relationship, but how do I always try to end the relationship amicably?
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 Yeah, that too.
Man, I did that good.
I can try.
Amicably, I always tell people, no matter what happens, we should be able to have a conversation. I can, meaning I know for myself, it was very important to me that I can call every one of my mentors right now on the phone and we can have a conversation.
Yes.
Right? But that's not always the case for a lot of people.
Well, burnt bridges can be burned from both ends.
For sure,
Right.
100%. And I'm not saying that I am perfect by any means.
So if I'm the one that, I see the fire coming my direction, I didn't light it, then I just go, okay, that's fine. I'm not rebuilding that bridge.
Right.
And you get to be on your side of the river. When it comes to ending relationships, so I think the more mature we get, the less we end relationships and the more we just shift the orbit.
Okay.
Right? So you were here, but maybe now we just need to go to here.
Different access points.
Right?
Lower level of security clearance.
So you got to the gate, but now I'm pushing you back across the moat and maybe to the tree line.
For sure, but I can still
I'm
see
like,
you over there.
"Hey!"
Yeah.
Right?
Right? You
What's
can
up?
wave.
Nice,
Sometimes you
good
have to keep
job.
pushing them back further and further, though.
Sometimes
some-
you have to ignore
hey,
that
there's
they're
some
even
people
on
that
the
need
other
to get off my
side. They're
planet.
like, hey, and you're like,
There's
Yeah.
absolutely sometimes where there's some people that just need to get off your planet. If you're growing and maturing, however, you stop having those people even enter your planet.
for sure.
So a lot of the times when we need to actually end relationships, it's going to be in a group. Like there will be a series of relationships that end quickly, and it's a part of phasing up. That's so far my experience.
Yeah.
Is it's all the same type of how I've related to people and of the type of people that I've attracted to relate to me. I'm only responsible for how I relate to people. So when I change the way I relate to people and they either come along or can no longer tolerate that, it's fine. It hurts. It sucks. Sometimes it goes really badly. Sometimes it costs me $40,000, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But we learn.
Yep, and
But we
I
take
am
from each
also
of these experiences
I'm also
and we use
solely
them.
responsible for making sure that I do not play in the drama triangle. I am not perpetuating drama. I'm not
Right.
going to play rescuer. I'm not going to play victim. I'm not going to play perpetrator.
Yeah.
I don't have any control over whether you cast me in those roles, but I'm not playing. I'm going to play by the book, and I'm going to play according to my ethics and morals. And when I do that, what I find is the people playing in that triangle typically just pick up their triangle and move somewhere else.
For sure. Yeah.
And then we just
I mean, it
don't.
really depends on.
Just
Yeah. So
don't.
here's the hardest part. There is no actual answer for any of
No.
these questions. These are all hypotheticals. These are all theory.
Yeah.
Because every interpersonal relationship, every mentor and mentee relationship is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
They're never going to be the same. I'm never going to treat, but I will say that I have been more selective of, it's like the first kid is the golden child. So you anything they do is amazing.
Yeah.
And then by the last one, you're like, whatever. To me, I have been more particular about where I make big deals about praising and
And what area?
in what area.
So you might have an athlete like Isaiah, and maybe you don't need to. You don't praise him on his athleticism. You might praise him on something else, right? You might praise him on a different area of how he handled a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, I'm not using him specifically.
For sure.
I'm just using it's a metaphor or like an example, but it might not be because I don't need to bolster something where you feel pretty confident in. We know you're doing well,
Yeah.
or I can do that later because it's just not what might be more important to some other area.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know because the relationship never is static.
For sure.
Right?
They're ever flowing.
It's never static. So it's almost like marriage or friendship. Every day, every month, that student has to decide to continue to be a student, and that mentor has to decide to continue to be a mentor or a teacher.
And also has
or a
to decide
teacher.
to continue to be a student.
Right. Well, but I mean, just
Yeah.
for this relationship, right? So if any one of these two can dissolve it,
For sure.
accidentally or on purpose.
Any relationship.
And
Anytime you
and
put two
I,
humans.
And I reserve the right to change my mind.
I reserve the right to refuse service.
I reserve the right to learn a lesson and then adjust my contract.
Yeah.
Like, it just, and then you can either get with the new contract or not. Like,
if you could give one piece of advice to young dog trainer Adrienne on when finding your mentors, obviously we're not trying to change the past.
no.
But if you could give yourself a piece of advice on finding the right mentor.
Well, I'm a little atypical there too, because I didn't start training dogs till I was 29. And I'd already been.
But you're
like,
a baby trainer
baby
at 29.
Baby
you're a
trainer,
baby trainer,
but more life experience than the typical like 22.
For sure, but bright-eyed and what's the saying? Bright-eyed
Bushy-tailed.
and bushy-tailed for like knowledge as a young. Did you feel like you were a kindergartner wanting to like being extremely interested in learning?
Total sponge. Advice on choosing a mentor or on in what capacity?
What
Any?
What do you look for in a mentor? Other than that I have 3 PSA 3s.
Okay. So
that
the first
does
thing
not
I look
automatically
for
qualify
is
me.
what's my goal? Because I'm only going to choose a mentor that's in line with my goal.
Okay.
Specifically, not I want to get into PSA. I have sometimes people text me.
No, you want to do really well.
I have people text me and say I'm thinking about getting into PSA or talk to me and I'm like, you need to be more specific, Bob. Specifics, Bob.
But now
right?
people are
and so
specific.
Part of my job, like I have a couple private lesson clients, and I've been pushing them. Like before we went to Montana, what do you want?
Yeah.
Don't get the dog until you know what you want, because otherwise one of you is going to be very disappointed. You are the
if
dog.
they're specifically getting the dog for the job, we have to be more specific on selecting.
So
the
you
dog.
have to know the dog. But then what's your job? You just want a one? Then just.
And some people want that, and that is also
so. Then if it
okay.
takes 6 years to get a one, that's fine.
Yep.
Right. When I'm searching for a mentor, when I decided, like when it was a process, obviously, I didn't know you very well. I was looking, do you have more than the resume that I wanted? Absolutely, you did. You had 3 times the resume I wanted. What was your teaching style? I had you down for a seminar on somebody's recommendation and absolutely loved the way that you presented information, the way that you answered questions, the clarity with which you were able to convey ideas. And what seemed to be, I say seemed because I'm a defensive, superstitious person sometimes. I'm cautious. I'm a cautious person. So it seemed that you truly cared about the people that you were interacting with.
Yeah.
I didn't know you. You do.
Yeah.
I know that now, but at the time.
It could have been fake.
It could have been fake.
Yeah.
Narcissists fake it all the time.
Narcissists fake it all the time. You can put on a good show for 2 days.
Absolutely.
It's hard to be like that all the time.
And frankly, it's taken me, it took me a year to feel comfortable and then 2 years to actually feel more comfortable being like around you guys. It just takes me a while.
For sure.
But that's fine. So, and then it was so good. So you can teach it. You can't just do it. You can actually teach it. I posted something on Facebook recently that those who can't do teach, but I've also noticed that those who can't teach criticize. Like those who can do but can't teach will criticize. If you can teach, you teach.
For sure.
You help, but if you can't teach what you can do, you just like criticize. Typically, not everybody. So you were able to convey information you were interested in doing so, and you had long-term relationships in the works. So that's something I look at too. Do you have a history of long-term coaching? Yeah. Do you have a history of working with people to that level? Means you can work with somebody over a long period of time, even if they're not the same as you.
I think it definitely, as a coach, as a mentor, it took me a long time to learn patience and allowing people to grow at their own rate, as opposed to as a young, ambitious trainer, I wanted everyone to learn as quickly as me, and it just doesn't work that way.
Sometimes you have to let them sit and chew on it for a while. My business coach, I'm very slow when it comes to my business coach. Fast here, slow there. Yes.
2024 Jonathan would tell, 2010 Jonathan, when he was getting ready to give his own seminar, his first seminar ever, he would probably say, relax, it's not that big of a deal. Give everyone like one or two really cool things, and like end on a good note and give them a bunch of dopamine.
Nice.
If they decide to continue to train with you and continue to learn more, that's awesome. If what you showed them doesn't really work for them, that's also okay, but try to affect everyone that you can.
Yeah.
As opposed to, 2010 Jonathan was like, everyone's going to train like this and I'm going to enlighten everyone to what is a third eye in dog training. It's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, you can't.
So as a mentor, I would say also but this is a trickle down effect as a person, is being very guarded. It also takes me a while to break down my walls, and the beginning of an apprenticeship, of a mentor-student relationship, is also very guarded.
Learning how to be guarded and generous at the same time.
It's hard.
What do you look for? So when people are looking for mentors and I was giving advice, I'm kind of like, to me, that's what you look for on the person. But what I think people are great at focusing on somebody else and what they should be.
What I look for in a student?
That's human nature. I also think that as a student, you have to look at yourself. Are you coachable? Are you teachable?
Yeah.
Are you humble enough to actually take advice? Are you willing to break down what you do and rebuild it? Are you willing to take responsibility for your own choices, words, decisions, actions? Are you willing to follow through?
Yeah.
Because you could have a well-meaning but mediocre almost mentor, somebody who's maybe just a few steps ahead of you. They can still mentor you. They're just a few steps ahead if you're not willing to take control of your own path. But what do you think? What do you look for in a student?
So I look for drive. Like, drive is super important. I can focus and I can channel drive, but like having the person has to be an internally driven internally driven person. They have to really want to learn and want to. I work fast and I train quickly, and you have to be able to want to retain all of this. Mm-hmm. Right?
When you're efficient.
Someone that's,
you could give a 5-hour seminar in 15 seconds of training a dog. Right? So if
I
somebody
appreciate I was going to say 15 minutes. You said 15 seconds.
Somebody who is actually passionate about it, that's an intrinsic.
I just have to talk really fast. So today in the webinar, we're going to. No, I'm with you.
No, like watching you train a dog for 5 minutes could translate. If somebody's truly watching, you just learned 5 hours worth of crap.
They should.
And you cannot actually instill that in somebody, right?
Yeah.
So
drive. Mm-hmm. Okay. Passion. I want someone that really wants to change their life. They're going to value this mentor-mentee, actually having a mentor, not just a dog training coach, but to an extent, a little bit of a life coach, of the fact of, I'm going to always give you advice. I'm never going to tell you what you can and can't do, other than you can and can't be in a relationship with me if you do this or that.
Yeah, that's personal boundaries.
That's personal boundaries, and I have to learn how to set. Are you going to remove
access if you're doing that?
Personal boundaries. Right. I've had more students come and stay in my house and fuck up my house. One let the air conditioner leak everywhere and flooded the whole upstairs of my house and had to take up all the flooring. Another one, the guy shit on the walls. He got some tar on his hands. And
it wasn't actual shit. Oh.
No. It's from the movie Dumb and Dumber. He's Bob Saget. He's he shit on the walls. He got this black gunk and he just got it everywhere and didn't apologize or just try to frantically clean it, but ended up rubbing it in deeper. Oh. So boundaries, personal boundaries is something that's very important as part of a student and mentor relationship. I always ask people permission, if I'm going to help them, before I'm going to move their arm. Can I touch you?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I think it's important to set that relationship from the start. Is if we're going to have now a physical relationship, this is all we've all agreed to all of this.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think it's
just clear communication.
People have to be
being willing to actually communicate directly.
Really helps. Once you've clarified all of this, it makes the learning process easier because everyone feels less guarded of the fact. But I still have to be broken down.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I'm okay, I'm going to give you some knowledge and I'm going to make you sit and wait and learn and watch. And if you're not watching me while I'm doing stuff, you should, as you said, you should be sitting there and studying. If I'm personally training a dog,
you have to guard what's valuable, right? I will never just hire a trainer. for my facility. I won't.
No.
Everyone starts as a kennel tech.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
I don't know you.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to give you my most valuable thing, which is my client's trust? I'm not going to give my client's trust to somebody who hasn't been around for a while and I know I can count on them.
You don't know me.
So it's the same. It's absolutely the same.
Yeah. I think, and then they over time build trust. They show you that they can be trusted with more and more responsibility. And then you ease them into it until you
And whose responsibility is that? So personal responsibility on both parts, right? But I'm in this right now in this conversation, I'm thinking on part of the student. As a student, I am ultimately, well, as a human, I'm ultimately responsible for myself. I'm responsible for my attitude. There's no excuse for, you can have a bad mood, but you can't have a bad attitude. You can choose to change your attitude.
For sure.
There's no excuse to bring down I know I'm chronically late, but at least I do show up. But that's my next thing I'm going to focus on.
You're always here. It'd be blizzarding out in Texas. And she's like, I'm on my way. I'm just running a 10
And you guys are
late.
like, shucks, we didn't actually want to train. No, I'm kidding.
Monday coming.
No,
is it
screw
Monday,
that.
Wednesday coming back from Montana. And she's like, we're going to train tonight.
I didn't think I was ever going to actually have a club or a dog and get to do what I'm doing. You think I'm going to skip a day?
No.
You're high.
No, again, so let's go back to looking for a student is drive
both my
and
legs
intensity. Like
I'll somehow get here.
I'm a very driven person. And so I have no time or need for people that are not as driven as me. Mm-hmm. Right. And then when I find people that are even more driven than me, because I'm like, I can be lazy at times, right? My body only works so much. Sometimes I have to sit, but finding people that are super driven, that understand what goes into it.
It co-motivates, right? You think about like, I'm responsible for my own attitude and I'm responsible for carrying this through the end. I made a commitment to this dog and to myself that this is something I wanted to do. I do not get to quit. I just don't.
Too legit to quit.
Too legit. So how do I then police my own and develop my own motivation?
Well, there's no quitting. What's the next step?
How do you develop your own motivation? You already showed us a trick on the way in. How do you nurture your own passion? Everybody in this industry wants to talk about, oh my gosh, it's like they love the pain of talking about burnout. And I understand it's a problem. It's a real issue. I've dealt with it.
Yeah.
Maybe stop giving it so much attention and start thinking more about how do I nurture my own passion? How do I safeguard my rest? How do I safeguard my mental health? How do I actually keep myself not just going but growing?
Yeah.
You do it. You walk past the trophies every day.
Yeah.
It's real hard not to get inspired by looking at all your bling. You're like, yeah.
When I did the
right, and then you go, those shelves are empty. I got work to do, right? And I have a gap mentality, so I get motivated not by looking at what I have done. I look at the next thing. I am now on to, sometimes it's hard for me. I'm learning how to sit in it. And this sport, I think some people, it teaches them to do more, work harder, or it gives them an outlet for something. For me, it's actually teaching me to rest. It's weird. I'm learning to just take a minute. Just be right here.
So and again, every human is motivated differently. The motivation of walking through the trophy case is not necessarily the motivation to me to keep going by way of continue to compete.
You're seeing the history to see
to come up here and to teach and to discuss, and it's the validation.
Yep.
As you said, find a mentor, find someone that's done it.
Yep.
It's the validation that I actually get to see. You go and you look at those 3 PSA 3 jackets.
How do you get yourself out of I can't do this? By looking back at 7 times you did something.
But there is
hard,
no I can't.
Right?
And when I can't, you curl up into a ball and you go curl up into the fetal position and you're done.
I mean, how do if I'm ultimately responsible for my own mental state and my own thought processes, how can I help myself talk to myself in a way that is able to combat?
Life is short. You need to enjoy it while you're here, and you need to do as much as you want to do while you are here. Yep. I don't want to just be a dog trainer. I want to affect a community. I want to disrupt a community. I want to leave a legacy.
I love it.
And part of leaving a legacy is you got to keep working at it.
And you walk past those, and just in those couple moments, you can see the whole past and all of those experiences,
Oh,
all the
blood,
ups
sweat,
and
and
downs,
tears.
and it then gives you that. So it's a way for you to talk to yourself.
Also keeps me balanced.
Yeah.
Because I know how much work went into all of the times I didn't win trophies, and all the hard work that it went in to actually win those trophies, right? You know, like we have now entered 4 trials this season as a club, and we have taken home all of the trophies 4 times in a row, right? That doesn't just happen. That's not like, oh, yay, we're awesome. No. That's fucking hard work. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of time. That's every time that I'm like, I don't want to train, and Adrienne's like, we're training, right? Right? So it's
right.
like the reason why I put this club together is it's a room of motivated, dedicated people, mm-hmm. right? I also always believe in the underdog, and I will take in the underdog, and I'm going to turn them into superdog. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I love my ragtag bunch that we go out and we win shit. Right? Because I believe that the mentor is such a huge part of that equation. Right?
Yep.
You know, like our friend Richard from India. Right? Like shout out to Richard.
What's up, Richard?
We love you, Richard. Dogs for life. Like his mentor Dev set him in the mindset of always be a student, because he's also a student, right? Looking at watching you and Tegan together in Montana, like this is really when I said to her, hey, can we get in the studio? Can we talk about mentorship? Because it's like you're a student, but you're also a mentor. And I'm a student, but I'm also a mentor, right? I think that's such a huge part. And watching what you've created, it's the sense of pride in that I have a huge part in creating what this person is today as a trainer, right? And their skill set and all these things and all of their accomplishments, like it's all a trickle down effect, right? Mm-hmm. Like the me and you arguing over it's not an argument, it's a polite war, but arguing over the club trophy. And I'm like, the first one you wanted to give it to me. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I take the first one. And then on the second one, I'm like, here, you keep it. And you're like, nope, I want you to have this. And so, and I didn't argue with you, and I appreciate it. And it's going to go in the trophy case, right? With the other single plaques that trophy. I have.
I'm not a club.
You know, that we, you know, but to me, it's so like that's a customary thing for anyone that doesn't know, is when you're a part of a club and you win the plaques, there is a plaque that is a club plaque. And so it's customary to give it to the club, give it to the training director, mm-hmm. right?
Acknowledge that you did not do this by yourself.
Exactly.
You can't win at anything without other people.
No, it's a team sport.
It's not possible.
This is a team sport. So Koi Fan gives his, like, he has so many of these, he gives them to each of his decoys. Yeah. Right, as like thank yous, and they get to see and like feel that sense of pride of how much work that they gave to be able to do it, like, you know. But because you were so adamant about it, I didn't argue with you, right? But I feel that sense of how hard you worked for those trophies, even though the goal was just to do the best that we possibly could. But all of those trophies are a product of hard work, right? Yeah. Like when we walked through that trophy case, none of those trophies, for me personally, none of those trophies were intended. They all happened. They are all just a product of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. That's all it is, right? Mm-hmm. You know, it's a lot of work. Like I wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to win these trophies. I'm like, I just want to do the best that I possibly can in life. Yeah. And whatever I intend on doing is what I intend on being the best at. And when I started PSA and there was only 6 PSA 3 dogs in the entire sport, I'm like, I want to be on that list. I know that I am capable of being on that list. I know that I have the skill set and the talent. I believed in myself when everyone else didn't believe in me. That's the main thing. You have to believe in yourself. And you have to believe that you
gave me a dog on faith, and I took the dog on faith that somehow I was going to get there.
But you believed in yourself.
Before even thinking that you guys would be here. Which makes makes it a lot less anxiety inducing.
And it worked out phenomenal, but we knew that you were still capable of doing extremely well with us not even being here because of your desire and drive and the dog's desire and drive.
Yep.
Like they will put it together. Now, obviously us being here is a fast track.
Yes.
Right. And having that supportive club to be able to do it is a benefit. And but because of that, again, as you said, you give also so much back to the club. Yep. The club is a unity. We have to work together. We work all together as a team. When you're out on the field, I'm sitting there and I'm doing math in my head about, like, what do we need to work on? What do we this? Okay, now we got up to, 92.5. Okay, how are we going to pull out? I said another 2.5 points. You said 7.5 points.
7.
But like, like how can we now pull out? And while you're actively on the field winning, I'm still thinking about, okay, where can we pull out these? Where are we losing these little half a points? Yep. Right? Because if you're thinking about it mathematically, if you're thinking about it systematically, if you're thinking about it as...
We're not, and this is a fun sport because even though you're not competing against anyone. There's no one else on the field with you. You're competing against the sport.
Yeah.
You're competing against the sport and making it as impossible to take points as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. That's fun.
Because the points belong. So like the points belong to you. You start with 100 and you lose points. Yeah. You don't start with the 0 and gain points.
I want to see if I can. You have to wrench these out. If you really want to take points from me, I want to get the routine so good that you have to it's a leap.
Puma, when she got her PSA 1, I think it was a 97 or 97.5. That's the highest score I've ever gotten in obedience. Now with nice. Cougar was my second real competition dog. And with Uzi, everyone used to talk shit. And they're like, oh, Cats can train a protection dog, but he can't train obedience for shit. So like it was really important with Cougar that I could go down and I could put down scores. Yeah. And, I was able to do like low 90s, mid 90s. I won regional champion with 3 stands in motion as solely a flex just because. But it was because I had to debunk everyone saying that I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, because it does become part of your career. It becomes
this is my
part of your resume.
This is my reputation. This is my, this is how I feed myself.
So if I ever want to teach competitive obedience, I can't.
You can teach competitive obedience because you can tell people how to score in the 90s.
But
right?
if I consistently got 81, I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't. Yep, exactly. No. So, it is also a little bit attached to goals.
For sure. So part of the motivation, like where does you have to have motivation.
Multiple.
You have to have
primary
motivators, primary motivators, secondary,
satellite.
Yep.
What?
I love it. No, that's it. Satellite targeting.
Satellite motivators.
Yeah, satellite targeting. Face and neck, hands and feet. What draw? You have to be internally motivated. If you're not internally motivated, finding a mentor, don't even leave the couch.
What advice would you give to, let's say, because you're kind of more of a, you've made it 3 times around the globe, and some people are just getting started on that road trip. But what advice would you give to mentors that maybe are only halfway around, or a little bit ahead of them?
Be open to continue to learn and seek out that upper mentor. Like when I go to clubs and I help the whole club, mm-hmm. I feel as like an external mentor mm-hmm. that their mentor brought me in for me to give them advice. Yep. So now I am that person's mentor. I am everyone's little mentor for the weekend. And then I'm always here. You can always reach out to me. I can always give you advice. But you're just giving them pockets of information. That mentor has to go out and take seminars. Hey, guys, I'm not going to be at club this weekend. I'm going to a seminar.
Right.
What happened after nationals? Isaiah and I went to the Hermie Mavunga seminar. Yeah. Besides was life goals, but I went out to go and learn. I spent the weekend. I was exhausted. It was literally the weekend after nationals. I was exhausted. Nationals prep tired me out, emotionally and physically draining, and then nationals, and then the stress of my first year not competing since 2010, all of that weighed on me. And then the next weekend was a seminar. It was so important for me to go and continue to learn. This was my opportunity to go and learn, and I needed to do that. Mm-hmm. So, hey guys, I'm not going to be here because we're going to learn, right? And Isaiah's excitement to want to go and learn from someone else Like,
so what is something, so a mentor that already is at the peak, like you're at the top of the sport. Nobody can deny that. So it's not going to be, I'm guessing it's not going to be so much learning the sport. What are the types of things that you learn?
I like to learn techniques. I think the sport is just the application of technique. I think it's the individual movements, the individual techniques that put together a system that, that put together a formal training program. So watching someone's mannerisms, I'm at the stage in my career where I can just watch you work and know what you're doing, whether you're doing it on purpose, you're doing it by accident, or you're doing it because you mimicked it, or you're doing it because you just don't know any better. Like that's why it's hard for me to sometimes watch training, because sometimes
it's hard not to interject. Like
but it's inappropriate.
Your tire's flat. I'd really like to change
now,
it.
After, after a couple days of being there, then people come over, hey, Jonathan, I'm having a problem. Or, hey, Jonathan, can you give me some advice on this? It'd be my pleasure. It's my honor. I love helping people. I think to be a mentor, you have to have a helping nature. Mm-hmm. I think you have to want to help people.
Yep.
I think, narcissists make horrible mentors because they only think about themselves.
Great figureheads, great gurus, but underneath it's all straws.
Yeah, but then it's all bullshit.
Sawdust.
It's all fucking smoke and mirrors. It's all snake oil, and that's not my goal. My goal, when someone leaves Dogma Academy or someone is associated with Dogma Academy, they should actually be able to train dogs.
Yeah, and how do you feel about mentors or directors or teachers saying that you can't learn from anybody else?
That's such bullshit. Everyone can learn something from someone. I was going years ago to a new state to give a seminar. I was doing like a little tour, and someone posted in one of the local groups like, oh, hey, Jonathan's giving this seminar, and the training director deleted it and said, don't post that shit in my group. There is nothing that Jonathan can teach you that I can't teach you.
So control, if
and
you
I'm like,
see...
But this person doesn't know what's inside my head. This has nothing to do with me.
Being aware, keeping your eyes open, if it feels like control, it probably is. And if it's controlling, that is somebody that is ultimately coming from insecurity, and control is how they maintain what seems like they need to maintain.
So here's the only control that
there's difference between rules and control
that I will instill is if I know that someone's going to do harm.
Sure.
If I know that someone's going to do bad, like I've literally let students of mine go to seminars that I'm like, I want you to go and experience that. And then when they come back, they tell me the experience that they had. And I knew the experience they were going to have, but they really wanted to go. And if I was like, oh no, he sucks, it's going to be a whole fluff seminar. Like you're barely going to learn anything. There's going to be all just chaotic, and, it's not going to be hyper-focused on actually learning anything. But hey, one time for the one time, like you did it, right? Like if I feel like if I told them, no, like I'm not a curmudgeon. Everyone sucks. I'm not a fucking curmudgeon. I want people to go out and learn. If I know someone that's going to be bad, I'm like, hey, don't do that. But my people go and train with other clubs all the time. Mm-hmm. Right? Isaiah's like, oh, I'm going to train with them. I'm like, fuck yeah, tell them I said hi. I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to take my weekend off. But nonetheless, why am I always bringing instructors here to learn? Mm-hmm. So you'd say, okay, well, I'm at the top of PSA, but I bring Jeff here to teach. Yep. I bring Paul here to teach. I had, Marquise came and teach. Like, Jeff's been here twice, because to me, this is one of the best in the business. So I think that people should learn, and and Jeff and I don't train the same way. And you're bringing in
people that don't come here. You're bringing in people that
Texas
haven't been
in Texas before. What about trial decoys?
Exactly.
I have trial decoys that have never been decoys in Texas before.
What happens when a pond doesn't have an inlet?
So, to me, I think it's important to set a mindset.
Yep.
And if I have to be the one to set the precedent, then I have to be the one to set the precedent.
It's fine. It's called
Hopefully
leadership,
people
right?
will follow by design, or people won't. And then that's their decision, right? I want to bring decoys here that I know run dogs. It makes me, not that it makes me happy to see the dogs get ran, but it makes me happy to see the dogs get tested. Because that's really what we're doing. We're testing our training. We're testing the dogs. I think it's important to find someone, a mentor that you vibe with, that you can have a good relationship, because you will have to at some point have some intimate of a interpersonal relationship by way of like life.
You just get to know each other. It's just part of it.
So find someone that you vibe with, right?
Yep.
So if we're going to give advice to like people looking for a mentor, find someone you vibe with. Find someone that you like the way that their dogs look. Watch them and their dogs. How does the dog look? Do you like that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Observe them with other people. This was one of the things you said, like observing me, teaching other people, right? It's not just teaching you, it's how do I relate to individual person.
If you like people watching and you can kind of start to, if you recognize patterns, my brain recognizes patterns like crazy. And I see people at trials over and over again, and I start to get a really good idea of probably what your marriage looks like.
Yeah. I have a hard line that I draw that I think is like, and it's not talked about also a lot, is with how personal I get with my students is I think that there's also a boundary that I refuse to cross. I think there's an intimate boundary that I think like it's the professor-student relationship I think is inappropriate because the student is at a vulnerable state because they're in a learning state.
It's always going to be a power help. What's it called? Imbalance?
Yes.
And so it's part of the responsibility of the teacher or the mentor to always be like withheld.
Yeah.
At some point, like it's the purview of the one being taught to be more in the vulnerable space.
Right.
Because they're the ones learning. Like the dog, when we're teaching a behavior modification dog or an anxious dog, that dog has all kinds of emotions. And what's the good trainer doing in response to that dog?
Yeah.
Neutral. I'm neutral. I'm going to let you have space to do that. It's safe.
Yeah.
But typically if you're going like this, I'm not doing a whole lot of anything. Yeah. And you have to have, there's big difference between boundaries and control. A lot of controlling, manipulative people will use the word boundaries to cover what is actually manipulation and control. But boundaries are supposed to clarify, and boundaries are only, it's not what will happen to you if this happens, it's what I will do if this happens.
Right.
It's only me, right? If this happens, I will do this. And then you have to follow through.
Yeah.
That's all they are. And when you're running a school or running a business or running a training club, there has to be some framework of, like, there's rules. There have to be behaviors that are expected. Otherwise, we're not going to function as a group because individuals have to kind of come together and conform a little in order to function as an entity. That's just necessary. It's just necessary.
Adrienne, I really want to thank you for coming on the episode today and discuss this. This is really important. The reason why we're doing this podcast and the reason why I started this podcast in general is really just to have an open forum and an open discussion for experienced dog trainers, young dog trainers. I met a mom and daughter in Montana, and the mom said she loves your podcast, and I said the 9-year-old listens to my podcast, and I said, which was your favorite episode? And she's like, all of them. And I was like, I felt so touched that she spent the time to listen, and I appreciate you, and shout out to you guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.